Lovely. And you're all very welcome here this evening. My name is Sandra Losty, and you may know me as Recovery Air on Twitter. And I'm delighted to open this evening up with a very special session to talk to three people in recovery and get a little bit more insight about their experience of recovery and what they have done to help other people in their journey. From the outset, I want to state that myself and the three speakers, whoever else you see on the screen, but myself and the three speakers are the only people who are identifying as being in recovery, unless other people state that otherwise. We are the only people who are claiming that place in our lives that we're in recovery. So this is all about how people have taken their recovery to help other people in many different ways. So we have Denise, who's over on my far right corner. I don't know what screen she's on your screen. We have Pam, who's on the far left corner. And we have Paul. Oh, he's in the middle. He's in the middle. So we're going to talk to Denise first. We're going to do maybe about 10, 12 minutes, 14 minutes max of speaking to each speaker. And then at the end, if there's any questions people have, either put them in the chat to Sim and Sim can feed the questions in, or we can, if you want to speak the question yourself, that's absolutely fine. We can facilitate you talking directly to the speakers yourself. So Denise, if you unmute yourself, you're already unmuted, fabulous. So Denise, you're very welcome. I just want to say a little bit about Denise. I seen a clip of an actress doing a scene from one of Denise's plays that absolutely floored me when I listened to the content of it. I messaged her immediately. I was just like, oh my God, I can't believe that was just so powerful. We will put the link in the chat so people can go and look at that piece. It's wonderful. The actress was wonderful, but the writing was just amazing. So Denise, tell us a little bit about what brought you into recovery to start off with.
I had what you could call a really bad year, and in the space of that year I lost everything. Relationship, flat, possessions, pets, job, just the whole shebang, like Jenga, like bang bang bang, one after another. And I was kind of holding it together enough to kind of try and stay optimistic. And then I had to put my cat to sleep, and it probably sounds like a really small thing, but it was all I had left of what I was trying to cling on to. You know, he was like my little wingman, and he was the only thing that was kind of keeping me going. I was getting up to feed him, and you know, I was kind of taking care of myself to make sure that he was okay. And when I had to put him to sleep, I was just like, I can't take any more of this. And I didn't have a reason to get up anymore. You know, I literally didn't care. And long story short, the caravan where I was, it wasn't in the best of places, and you know, I wasn't feeling very safe, and everything just kind of got on top of me, and my head just went, and I went on the rampage for a good 18 months, I think it took, for me to end up in hospital first, having a hospital detox. And then 3 months after that, I was actually admitted into, you know, like a full-on detox residential centre. So yeah, it didn't take me very long to absolutely devastate myself. And it was kind of, when I was in there, I was so ill mentally and physically. You know, I was on the floor, and I didn't even realize how ill I was. I think I was in kind of la la land. You know, I'd gone way past caring, and I didn't really have people around me that were that interested either. You know, people would kind of cross the road when they saw me coming by the end. And so when I got into detox, I felt like I could breathe you know, I was away from all the, I'm kind of glossing over like loads of it. It was a real horrendous situation. But you know, I was away from all of the madness, and I had one job in detox, and that one job was to try and get myself well. And I just thought, well, you know, I haven't got anything to lose by doing this. This is, if I don't do this, I'm gonna die. And so that was it. That's how I found myself in detox. And I did 4 months. I did 6 weeks in detox, and then I went into rehab. So yeah, it was 4 months in total.
Yeah, sounds like a right whirlwind.
Yeah, it was just, I look back and it's really, really surreal. You know, it's kind of, I can't even put it into words. It's, you know, you can kind of see me sitting here and I can articulate, and I can, you know, I sound like I've got my head together, and, you know, I'm quite an intelligent person. But if you'd have seen me back then, I was just an absolute mess. Yeah. And I went from being this normal, stable woman with a life and a job and, you know, pets and everything was like tickety-boo, to this tramp living in the same clothes like 10 days straight, and not knowing what my name was even sometimes. And it was just unbelievably terrifying. Really.
Yeah, I can understand that. Yeah. So tell us, you finished rehab, and what was the immediate thing that happened in your life then?
I walked out of rehab. Simply, I should have been in there for another 3 months. And I knew that I got to the stage where it wasn't actually helping me anymore. It was going to take me backwards if I stayed, which sounds a bit ridiculous, but that's how I felt. And so I walked out of rehab and I went into a homeless hostel the next day. And that was when I really was kind of like on my own. This was make or break then, you know. It was like I needed something to cling to that would help me to cope with everything. Everything had happened so quickly, and you know, I'd had so much. I was on so much medication and this, that, and the other, that I was sat in this house just going, how the hell am I here? You know, what's happening? And I needed something to channel all of the madness that was in my head. I needed a way to get that out safely without reaching for a drink, which obviously would have been my crutch. You know, I would have been scampering off to the pub and had a few pints, and everything would have been rosy again. So I was absolutely determined. You know, I'd worked so hard in detox to get myself to some kind of normal, that anything that I could put my hand to that would offer me an alternative to that, I was going to take it, you know. And writing happened to be that thing.
And did you write before?
No. No, it's this is the thing. Everything started in this hostel, and it was literally me and a notepad. A friend of mine said to me, she was the one who put the idea in my head, and she said, look, I want you to write. She said, I don't care what you write about, but I want you to write. And she built me a website. She was that kind of convinced that this would help me, that she built me this little website. And so I started just writing about how shit my day had been, or, you know, how I wasn't sleeping, or just making sense of what was in my head, just getting it out and trying to get into that routine. And then I started to once I started to write, I couldn't stop. It was like I'd been quiet for all of those months, and I'd had all of this emotion and all of this chaos and everything that needed an outlet, and it wasn't coming out of my mouth. You know, I wasn't talking about it, but I could write about it. And I literally, it just opened the floodgates, and all of this stuff started pouring out of me. and you know, it started to make sense, and I started to think, do you know what, I'm touching on something here that's helping me to understand everything that's happened to me. And that's when it changed from being a little, you know, thing to humor her more than anything else. It changed then, and it became like my lifeline. You know, I realized how important it was, and the tool it was, and the power that it was kind of giving me back. And once I had that, it was like I found the Holy Grail.
Excellent. And Denise, what was your first piece that wasn't about your day, or more, wasn't a diary kind of a piece? What was your first kind of formal writing piece?
I wrote a piece for Metro called How My Alcohol Addiction Became the Making of Me. So they published that. So that was like my first major publishing thing. And I wrote a piece called Hospital Food. And it was about a guy that I'd met on Twitter. And he tried to kill himself, basically. And I'd been talking to this guy online, and you know, we'd got this rapport going, and when I found out what had happened to him, it kind of really hit me quite hard. And so I wrote this piece called Hospital Food about, you know, the relationship between us, and it was just purely platonic. It wasn't, you know, a flirt situation or anything like that. It was literally, you know, just talking to each other. So I wrote this piece about his headspace, and you know, and how I was trying to cheer him on with like little notes and things, and that got published by Mental Movement magazine. And then I got offered a magazine column for a spiritual magazine, and so I was writing for them, and it just kind of, with every tiny win that I had, my confidence grew like tenfold, you know, and it was like, it spurred me on then, because other people were believing in me, because I'd got no confidence at all. You know, I hid behind an avatar for ages. You know, nobody even saw my face. And obviously, you know, I write as just a girl, so I wasn't using my real name, and nobody knew who I was, because I was so fragile initially that if anybody had pulled me apart in the early days, I don't think I could have coped, you know, and so I made this little like suit of armor around me to give me the confidence to do it. And then I did it, and people liked my work and started to relate to it, and it literally went from there.
Super. Tell us about the piece that I seen, that a wonderful piece, that actress, I can't remember the actress's name. But what was the actress's
Parissa,
name?
her name is. Yeah, her name's Parissa.
Parissa. Yeah.
And the piece that I put online is an extract from my play. And it's basically, I've taken a normal woman and I've thrown a ton of shit in her general direction, basically. And we take her from normal in a relationship. I've kind of based it loosely on my relationship breakdown, but instead of it being alcohol, I've made her addicted to heroin. And there are reasons why she gets addicted to heroin. She gets exploited, because I think, you know, when you're in addiction, it's easy to find yourself surrounded by the wrong people. Either they gravitate towards you or you gravitate towards them, because you're just on a completely different wavelength, and they know that, you know. And so I've put her in this situation that she doesn't realize that she's being set up. And long story short, she gets exploited, and the only way she can try and get her way out of it is to be a prostitute. And in the, you know, and as that unfolds, obviously the toll that it's taking on her head, she turns to heroin, because why not? You know, she's in this horrible dark place, and she's got nowhere to turn, and she just wants escapism. And so the piece that you saw is called Narnia, and it's when she first uses heroin, and she's explaining, you know, she goes off into the wardrobe and she's looking for a handsome prince because he's in there, and her body's in the bed sit, but her head's in the wardrobe going on adventures. So that's the piece that you saw, and I love it. And I love Parissa. She's just the best. She's so good.
It was amazing and very moving, and it's a short piece, but it's well worth it. So I've one more question for you, Denise, and I know your Wi-Fi might go any minute, so we want
Yeah,
to make
it's
sure that we
sketchy. I'm
get
so
the
sorry.
information. You're fine. You're fine. You might when I ask you the last question, you might put the link to that piece in the chat so people can then click on it and watch it later on. But the last piece I want you to tell us about is, and thank you very much for sharing everything that you have, because I certainly identified with a lot of your story in so many ways. But tell us what your recent news is.
Ah, yeah. I made a little film back in 2018 called This Is Depression. And it was basically, it was a purge. It was a blog that literally just came pouring out. And I wanted to document just how low alcohol had taken me, you know, and my days were spent crying in the morning and going to a bar, and, you know, just it was Groundhog Day, and it was horrible. And I knew that I was killing myself, but I wasn't in the headspace to be able to do anything about it at that time.
Mm-hmm.
So I made this little film that kind of is a snapshot of, you know, the rabbit hole scenario. And the film's won 4 awards already. And it's, you know, it's on the festival circuit and things, and it's all a little bit crazy. But yeah, it's just got into the Cornwall Film Festival, and I'm really excited about that because obviously I live in Cornwall, and, you know, it's quite a big deal for me. So yeah, so that happened the other day, which is quite cool. I might get another little trophy thing. I'm gonna need a bigger shelf.
We
So
like
that's the
bigger
news.
shelves for trophy things. Yeah, that's brilliant. Congratulations, that's absolutely brilliant. And then
Thank you.
One of the polls we're going to do, I'll put the polls up now in 2 seconds. But what would you say to people who may be kind of playing around with an idea of something that they think might help other people in recovery, and that they're kind of letting it marinate in their head? Now, I know, and as I said to all 3 of you, I know you're going to say just do it. But in terms of practical advice, what would you give people? What would be their next step to get it out of their head to maybe start to bring it into real life? What would your one piece of advice be on that?
First, I would just focus on the fact that, you know, you're ultimately writing for yourself. You know, that's what I was doing, and that's what I still do. I might have an audience, but my writing is for me. It's therapy for me. It's my way of getting through recovery. You know, that's how I deal with things. So just don't lose sight of that and take baby steps. You know, I also think that when you're in addiction, so much of your life towards the end gets thrown out for public consumption, and everybody thinks that they know your business, whether it's, you know, your medical history or your friends and your family or whatever. You're lucky to have something that's just for you. And for me, that's what my writing was. It was just for me. It was just my thing that nobody else could interfere with. You know, it was something that was important to me. So just get yourself on a firm footing first, you know, and make sure that your own confidence is kind of in that place, and then get your little tribe around you and start to share your work with trusted people. You know, just say, look, I'm working on this, what do you think? You know, and don't just chuck it out on Twitter and open the floodgates to, you know, trolling and things like that. It's just be careful, you know, because confidence is a big thing, and you need all that power for yourself. So just make sure you're in a good headspace first. And what I was going to say to people as well was, my little idea was that obviously I've got a blog, and if anybody does want to write something and they're not confident enough to put it out for themselves, they could maybe give it to me and I'll do a guest blog on it, and they can share their work without sharing who they are, just for a little bit of feedback, or, you know, it's just a little idea. But the offer's there if anybody wants to take me up on it. And I will send you in a second, Sandra, I'll send you the link to the play And if you don't mind, you put it up in the chat, because I'm rubbish with technical stuff and I'll just make a mess of it. And then nobody will see it.
I look after that. Denise, thanks a million. Thank you so much. And if it makes you feel any better, I'm crap at technology too, because I set up 3 polls. And obviously I did it on another screen and I can't find the goddamn things. And it's telling me now my session is inactive. So I can't do the second polls that I wanted to do. So you are not alone, my friend. You are not alone. I will circulate all the information you send me. That's no problem.
Sandra,
Listen,
I've got the option here to launch poll if you want to.
have you got the option? Thank you, Sim. Can you launch the first one if you can?
It's just launched
Oh,
in general.
I can see this now.
Yeah, it's doing question 1, 2, 3.
Woo! It's
Fabulous.
working.
See, I can't see that, so that's bonkers that I can't see that. There's technology.
And you've done it.
Brilliant. Okay, Denise, thank you so much. That is fabulous. Thank you so much. You're a rock star, an absolute rock star. Thank you.
Thank you.
Lovely, lovely. Okay, Paul, you're next. So, Paul, come on in and tell people how they may know you in another guise or life or whatever. I'll let you say what that is.
Thanks, Sandra. Thanks for inviting me along. People might know me as Max Kolbe on Twitter. And you'll probably see me on there annoying celebrities to take t-shirts. So, you know, I think of my claim to fame is I had my first Twitter ban for messaging Kanye West and offering him a t-shirt. But what people don't see, and there's method to my madness, you know. I mean, if the celebrities take a t-shirt, that's all fine and well. But really, I'm just piggybacking them and the amount of viewers they've got to get the message out there. And the amount of people that have messaged me asking for help and I've been able to help, you know. So, yeah, you might know me as Max Kolbe.
Super, super. Let's go back to the start for a second, Paul. Tell us a little bit about your story as to why or how you came into recovery, that this piece has come from it.
I came into recovery 18 months ago and I'm 14 months clean and sober today. Give or take. No, sorry, it's not the day. So that was a give or take. But I'll take the claps. I'll take the applause anyway. So and how I came in was my life. I was living a chaotic lifestyle and enjoyed listening to Denise there and her story. And I was leading a chaotic lifestyle and I was losing things as well. Countless relationships and homes, flats, cars. The only thing I managed to keep was my job. I was back living with my parents. I'd say I've kind of always suffered from mental health, but through my work, I work in the fire service. I'd started to experience traumatic incidents and quite a lot of them in quick succession. And so suffering from anxiety, depression, post-traumatic stress disorder, and I was on different medications, various medications. I was changing medications. I was self-medicating and I was suicidal. But my turning point came when a family member actually had a serious attempt on their life. And what happened was I hadn't really been a good role model to that person in my life. And I wanted to change the narrative. I wanted to be a better role model. I didn't know how to do it. And I stumbled upon recovery, and I'm very fortunate that the recovery I did get was strong recovery in Glasgow. And from there, I got confidence installed in me. I got courage installed in me. And, you know, there was a bit between in my recovery where I think you're in between two lives. And it's like the limbo period. And that was a difficult part for me. And, you know, trying to kind of ascertain if this stuff worked. But through the kindness and compassion of others, I could see, you know, that there was something in it and it did work. And I persisted. And, you know, things have just got better for me in my life. I turned 33 last month. And I say this quite a lot. I feel like my life's just beginning. You know, I've started to contribute. I've took responsibility for myself, and it's like, not only that, once I started to do that, I was always trying to help others and play the hero, but you know, I couldn't do anything for myself. But what recovery's been able to do is help myself, and then I might be able to export a little to the family, to kind of wider society. So I try and keep myself, you know, well today, and I do a variety of things to do that. I'm still a group member at groups. I do service, you know, and I've got sponsees, and my step 12 is just kind of an extension to that, taking it onto the internet. And the great thing with that is there is no borders. You know, I've connected and helped people on the other end of the world, and you know, people have messaged when I put up these t-shirts and I message celebrities. People will message and say, and it's funny, right? Because I was apologetic as well, but usually the first thing they say is, "I'm sorry for getting in touch with you." Do you know? And that was me. Like, you think you're so much of a burden, and that's just that in itself, you know, it breaks your heart. But I identify with that, and I've been able to, you know, give them a friendly point in the right direction. And sometimes that's doctors, local support groups, fellowship meetings, and I've like virtually took people to their first fellowship meeting. Do you know? And I've got a lot of gratitude that I'm able to do that.
Super. Paul, I really like the way you described that in-between place where, you know, what you were doing wasn't working, or it's not serving the need that you had, and it's not making it any better, but there's the ability to move into a new way of living is not quite there yet. So, and the reason I want to say that is that several people had sent in messages looking for the DM saying, "Oh, I'm not quite sure," or "I'm only new," or I don't know, I can I come on to my no video, no sound, and all that sort of stuff. And it's a really delicate time for people in that in-between place, you know, and I think it's really important that people know that that can be part of the process, that there is that uncertainty. There's you know it's not working, you're afraid to leave it behind, but you don't know the next step forward. So I really appreciate you bringing that up. That's very valuable. So Paul, tell us, where did the idea come for around the clubber? You know, where did that idea come from? So there was the brand name, if you like, and then some of the design. So, but what prompted you to say, I want to put this in clothing to raise awareness?
So my idea was, I'm thinking of demographics that maybe, like myself, are stuck in this life that I says don't know where to turn. And you know, I would try to tap into that way. My first, you know, the little guy with the kind of football casual clothes, if you will. But within that, when I designed that logo, it was like my interpretation of the yin yang symbol, you know, chaos and order. And that was my life. I mean, my life went from largely being order with a little bit of chaos in it to just largely chaotic. And I was lucky if I had a little bit of order. So that's where the first kind of idea came from. Now, the name Max Kolbe is he's actually the patron saint of addiction.
Oh.
And he was a priest during World War II in Auschwitz. And when prisoners escaped, the Nazis had said that they were going to kill so many prisoners. So one of the people they selected to die had a wife and kids, and Max Kolbe, who was a priest at the time, volunteered to die in that man's place. And when I heard that story, and I heard that he was the patron saint of addiction, and it was everything that I was getting taught in recovery, you know, like altruistic, and I didn't know what altruistic meant, and my sponsor made me word search words, and it simply means to be less interested in yourself and more interested in others. And I try that today. It's a struggle because my centre reference point is always me, myself, and I. Yeah. But I do try to do that today, and it's what I aspire to be. So I thought that was the perfect name, and also like a bit of a tribute. and with the kind of symbols that I do, and the first one was the yin yang, order and chaos. As I say, there's a few bands in there, but I'm trying to reach people that are maybe out there in these lifestyles that are not aware of recovery, because I was never aware of recovery for 32 years of my life. And I think, you know, we've got a duty now to. You mentioned it, Sandra. It's like, right, well, we get well, and then where do you go from there? And I think part of the breaking down the stigma is to get out there and say, look, you know, I was struggling, and here I am now. And it makes it for other people. It makes it, they can look at me and say, well, if he can do it, maybe I can do it.
Yeah, absolutely, Paul. And I seen something, one of the podcast people, again, I can't remember which one it was, but they put something up the other day around they're visible about their recovery, so people don't have to die in silence. I'll find the reference of that and give them credit. I can't remember specifically which one it was. If anybody knows, will you put it in the chat so I can say it in this recording? And that's fantastic. That's amazing, because I'm amazed at how many people don't kind of get the recovery piece, you know, like you, they're like, what do you mean? Like it just is not part of their life, and they've no role models in their life. And I would have been like that myself. I would have only known people who went off drink for Lent, you know, but we knew they were going back on her at the end of Lent, like, you know, or they were going off to say for Christmas or something like that, or some event in their life, they were off the drink for a particular reason, but it wasn't because they were acknowledging it was a problem, you know. So like you, I never had people that I seen who stopped drinking or drugging or whatever and stayed in that way and lived in a recovered life, you know. So that's brilliant. So tell us what was that like to get that first piece of clothing with your brand on it? Tell me what that was like. That must have been a great buzz.
It was quite surreal, and I mean, to get that through and then to see other people wearing it, and like I've seen people wearing it that don't know that that's me. And like there's this thing, you know, Denise mentioned it earlier, like there's almost a part of recovery where you need to come out, you know, and it's like and that's a massive part, and there's massive fear there attached to me and with my job and how I might get treated differently, because I mean I'm trying to break the stigma, and I believe that you shouldn't get treated differently, but I know there's a lot of people that don't have that same mindset. Is unfortunate enough to have, but no, some buzz to get it on t-shirts and to see other people wearing it. And probably my biggest fans and customers are my mum and dad, and my mum was wearing it on a hill walk the other day, and she said somebody gave her like a wee, all right, Max Kolbe. They never said that, but they gave her the nod, and somebody had came on Twitter to say that they'd seen somebody wearing it, you know, on a hill walk. So I was saying to my mum, you know, that was you. But the thing is, with people wearing it, is I've always been one for taking comfort in objects, and like for someone who's dealt with fear all my life, it's incredible for people to get in touch and say that they've wore it on a hill walk, or maybe they've wore it to their first chair or something they had a bit of fear about doing, and you know, and that gave them courage, and that gives me so much courage. And it's just, Denise mentioned earlier about getting trolls and stuff like that, and not all my interactions have been positive. You're always going to get that, but overwhelmingly I've had so much positive feedback and private messages and stuff, and makes it all worth it.
Yeah, absolutely. I know you sent me the Higher Power t-shirt, which I was very grateful for, and there was a World Day of Prayer there a couple of weeks back, and I wore it on that, and they were all like, because they were just in their normal clothes, and I was going, no, I turned up for God with higher power on it.
Dressed for the occasion.
It was wonderful. So Paul, I know that you have a particular interest in around the mental health piece. So tell us a little bit about that, because that's not always connected to substance. You know,
Yeah.
mental health can happen without any kind of substance issue in a person's life. So tell us a little bit about the interest in that, and why you are so kind of focused on helping people feel okay if they have a mental health issue.
I believe it's, and this is only my opinion, is I do believe it's the precursor to addiction, you know, and mental health, it's like an umbrella term, and there's so many different, like, no two people are suffering from the same mental health aspect. But where it comes in for me is the support groups that are available and that I'm connected with. So the whole thing is, it's a I've actually got non-profit organisation status now, and that's quite important for me. So any, you know, and everything will be completely transparent, but any profit I used is going in towards the aim of Max Kolbe. And the aim of that is to help people that are suffering from mental health or addiction. And the guys kicking on, who you might see, I've got those guys' t-shirt on, so I'm wearing that for a bit of courage. But so those guys are doing a mental health support group through football therapy, and I've spoke about this on the meeting before. Like, I don't believe that we met. We were putting each other's paths when we were messaging somebody on the same night, and people were. I had gave him a little bit of advice about options to him, and other people were messaging to go to this mental health support group. And I've been along there, and what these guys are doing is incredible. Like, there's no two people in the room the same. Everybody's suffering from something, including like bereavement, which I think totally gets overlooked. Do you know that there's nothing for anybody in it? With the way that society is in the current financial climate, the things that are there are getting. Funding's getting withdrew, and you know, it really relies on volunteers, and it relies on us. And whether you agree with that or not politically, then there's only one thing you can do about it, and it's action. So I've took great inspiration from the McKenna brothers at Kicking On, and other grassroots projects in Scotland, and the idea for me is to have a support group myself, and it's not just for addiction. Of course, addiction will be a massive part of it, but as I mentioned, like bereavement, mental illness, people with kids that have got mental illness, or people with kids with disabilities who I know, and so I feel passionate about it, and it's where kind of things are leading me to. So, and I'm just inquiring the premises and stuff at the moment, which is hard with COVID. I think if I had been an organisation at the start, you know, I would have had a wee bit more chance. But what am I trying to say here? Premises aren't looking for anybody new, startup or anything else, but it's in the pipeline, Sandra. So it's another thing to look forward to.
Oh, super. We'll have to have another session with you to give us updates on that when it gets moving. So, Paul, tell us, the last question that I have for you is, like I did with Denise, people may have an idea in their head. You are, of course, going to encourage them and say, just do it. But what is the practical step that you would advise them to take to maybe take that out of their head and bring that out into life?
I mean, I had ideas of doing things for a long period of time, and the thing that held me back was fear. And like the fear of failure is obvious, but the fear of success is quite a subtle one. And I feared success probably just as much, and I feared probably my anonymity. I feared all the things, and but what I'd say is Denise gave some really sound advice, and she was saying about running it past people and everything else. All great advice. For me, I would say, if you've got something, doesn't need to be recovery related, but if you find that you've got a passion for something, then just go with it. I find it, like, it gives me purpose and meaning, and I really need that. Like, spiritually, I've came to learn that spiritually I was unwell, and for me to be spiritually connected, I need to feel like I'm doing something meaningful and purposeful, and it doesn't need to be a grand project. It just needs to be something that's special to you. And when you find that you're focused and you're in the moment, then you've found it. Stick with that, and fight through the fear. because it was said to me, courage is being able to do things in the presence of fear and not the absence of fear. See, I came in here with so much fear, and I've still got loads of fears, but the difference is today I try and walk through them. So that would be it. Walk through the fear.
Sound advice. Sound advice. Paul, thank you so much. And yeah, if there's any links you want to put in the chat there, stick them in so people can follow where you are, or see your website and see the products that you have, because they're pretty cool. They're pretty cool.
Thanks, Sandra.
Thank you, Paul.
Thanks again.
Thank you.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you. And Sim, when I finish talking to Pam, will you launch the second question? Yeah. Or did they all launch together?
They all launched together, but they're
Oh, did they?
ongoing,
Right.
so
Well,
it's not
see how wonderful the technology is. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Well, let's hope anyway that wherever people polled is going to be useful to them. Pam, you are probably the one speaker out of all three speakers that have been to probably all of the 200 meetings that Recovery Hour has been on this evening. For people who don't know, Recovery Hour, I didn't realize this when I set this up. I only realized it the other night, that this is our 200th consecutive meeting of Recovery Hour, and that's not counting the women's meetings or any of the other little groups that we do outside of that thing. So so very special evening tonight. And I think Pam was very early days. You were one of the people that came in, because I even remember going, Pam, we can't hear you. You've no audio. You've no. When we're all trying to get used to Zoom. So Pam, thank you. You've been very patient. Thank you for hanging in there. Tell us, Pam, a little bit about your story before we go into what you brought out into the world.
Okay, I'm a definite alcoholic. I was drinking a fifth of vodka a day by the end. I know a lot of you know this. I couldn't believe what kind of life I was living. It was so lonely and so dark, and I would never have in a million years expected that this was what I was going to turn into. I had spent so much of my life trying to succeed and do the right thing, and then there I sat in a garage with a bottle of vodka on a daily basis, and it escalated. And I was so terrified. I was lonely, terrified, and living in the darkness, and I didn't really know what it was. My book kind of describes, there's a page where I'm like, what is this? I'm asking God, what is going on with me? Why is this happening? And it wasn't until I got into rehab and learned what it was that I had that I became free. But addiction was a very scary thing for me, just scary. So
yeah. And you had written before, Pam, hadn't you? You had been published already in another area of writing.
So I hadn't actually been published yet. I had some articles in a newspaper published years and years ago. I was writing a World War II novel, 500 pages. I'm re-editing it now, which is how I was able to hide behind drink. Like I could use it as my excuse to drink. And then I would drink wine in the afternoon, and then it was vodka, and then it was a fifth of vodka. And we all know our war story and how it progresses. So I was already a writer. I was an English major in college, and I loved to write. I was totally deranged. So I'm fixing that now that I'm sober.
A deranged World War II novel. I love it. I absolutely love it.
Oh, wow.
So tell
Horrible.
us, where did the idea for your book, Letting Go of the Thief, where did that come from?
Okay, so when I went into 28-day rehab, and my counselor knew that I had written that World War II book in the process of, finishing it down, some thoughts. I had no intention of a book. I got home, and I remember like 2 days into it, and I was freaking out. And I think I wrote The Cold Shoulder. I think that was the first thing I ever wrote, about remembering how I would wake up on a couch in my basement and not know how I got there. And then my family was looking at me, and and now it was all the excuses and the lies, and we all know how it goes. And so I would just continually write just different feelings, different memories, just different ways I felt when I was drinking. And then as time progressed, the beauty of recovery started streaming in, and I would write the triumphs. I mean, as small as drinking a cup of coffee in the morning and not getting sick, as small as the sun is starting to come up, as small as I'm awake at 7 o'clock in the morning and I'm not going to sleep till 1. And then the triumphs grew, and I started writing the good stuff in sobriety. So.
Yeah. Isn't that phenomenal that we start to see those kind of things and really appreciate them and the value in them? I was talking to somebody the other day, and I said, it's gas that people in recovery are trying to catch up with the rest of the world, because very often our lives are held back in so many areas.
Yes.
And now the rest of the world is trying to come into our world and live a day at a time. And you're like, it's like, we've been there, we've been here a while, folks. But it's all of those triumphs, as you say, it's those wins, it's those things that were such a challenge at the beginning, like getting out of bed at a decent hour and having the full day ahead. So tell us you had the bits of the book and channeling into that. When did it become a book for you? When did you go, this is going to be a book?
So the prologue, Letting Go of the Thief, and I know some of you might know this story, but I was going to do my amends on Christmas Eve. My mother is Polish, and we do a płatek, which is where we ask forgiveness from everyone in the room. And I wrote The Thief for them, just for them. And it was a way of explaining what had happened and how I kept going back and forth, and I was trying to quit and I couldn't stop, and all of that stuff. And then I had lost them, even though they were standing right next to me. And so I read that at the dinner, and then I made an amends to each person in a letter. And after I wrote that, I read it at an AA meeting, and everyone wanted to borrow it for their family members. And so I made copies, because I kind of thought of a book at that point, but I wasn't really there yet. And then after that, I started looking at all my stuff, and I said, this is kind of like a 90-day thing that went on, and it was good and bad. And the thief, letting go of the thief, because I called it the thief pulsated through my bloodstream like a thief in the night. And it really was a God thing. It just started to begin to come together. And there was a lot of little God winks along the way. The picture I found right away. The hardest part was deciding how to line that up. And I decided to do crazy and sobriety, drinking and sobriety, because we are always like that. I mean, I have over 6 years sober now, and my brain still goes that way. So I really wanted to make it in the view of how our brain really operates.
Yeah.
So
yeah, because recovery is not that straight line.
Right.
The straight line might be you don't pick up your substance or go back to your choice that helps you disassociate from the world. That might be the common thread that runs through things, but the thinking and the behavior can come back and forward, and you're constantly trying to realign yourself to it. So let us go back to the piece that you wrote, which is the prologue. Do you have the book beside you?
Yes, I do.
Yes. Would you like to read us a little piece from that, just to give people a flavour of what this might be? And I'm sure you'll get a flurry of emails asking, can I have a copy of that, please? so I can make some amends.
Yeah, I will just read just 2 little paragraphs, and just so everyone knows, because in the book, the thief is the alcohol, just so I'm prefacing that. And so I wrote, with a hopelessness not meant for words, I turned toward the thief in some meaningless acceptance of my fate. I was weary and tired. I had let you go. I had made my choice to walk toward madness and probable death. Grimmer still, I could not stop myself for the sake of you, not even for the sake of you. There in the lonely solitude of terror, I began my daily ritual, bottle after emptied bottle. There in that battlefield of desperation and total despair, I slowly disappeared into a lifeless entity of emptiness. If I saw you, I no longer recognized you. No, nor were you able to recognize me. I had grown numb to the core, which allowed me to dismiss even the slightest sense of you. By then, I was already strolling in the graveyard, plotting my eventual end.
Wow. And Pam, what was the response to your family when you read that letter on Christmas Eve? What was the response?
They were all crying, even the guys, like my kids, you know, I know, like when they finally all read my book when it was done, even though they had lived with me trying to get sober, they understood now what happened and where my thoughts were, both in drunkenness and in sober living. And it really helped them. Even my own husband was like, now I kind of get it. So yeah, they loved it, and like I said, so many people in AA wanted that part of the book, which I freely handed out.
You're very kind. You're very kind. When was the book published?
It was published May of 2018. It's taken me a long time in terms of the promotion aspect, A, because I'm not a fan of doing it. But B, it takes a while. I'm sure Denise knows, I'm sure Paul knows. I mean, it takes a long time to get your whatever it is you're doing out there. It doesn't happen overnight. So
yeah. And what I love about what all three of you have brought forward is it's this thing that was inside of you that it had to come out. It's like you couldn't keep it in. It had to come out, and you said yes to it, you know, and the difference now that's after making to people's lives and helping people understand. Because I know when I read the book and I told you the story about my sister, you know, it just helps people understand what goes on in your head, that they may be seeing something different, but they don't realize what's going on in your head, and it kind of brings that together for them. I felt it did anyway, and definitely my family felt that as well, which is my sister.
Thank you.
So tell us, Pam, the process of writing. So tell us just a little bit about that, because you know, I mean, I'm sure we all have a bit of dabbling at writing in different forms and that sort of stuff, but to get a book published, tell us a little bit about that process. What's involved in that?
Well, you know, for a while there's a lot of routes you can take. Do you mean like how to get it published? Is that what you're asking?
Yeah, like what was the process for you to actually, you've decided this is going to be a book. What did you do then?
Okay, so what I did then was I did a couple query letters to regular publishers. And the fact is, you know, unless you have a big name, I mean, or less by some crazy chance, it's really hard to get in with them. So what I did, I got a little frustrated. And so a couple months later, I decided to look into self-publishing. And I looked for what were the better top 3. And then I looked into each one of them and then decided on Outskirts Press. They were the best. They got the best ratings. I talked with them and I went that route. It's a grueling process. You know, I paid for editing and, you know, that takes some time. It's all over on, you know, you're on emailing back and forth, but they did a really amazing job. And I was full part of the picture, all the right, you know, I was a big part of it. It wasn't like they took it over, and that's what happened. It costs money up front to do though. So, you know, if you self-publish, you have to put some money out.
Yeah. And the penultimate question I want to ask you before I ask you what your tips are. So during that back and forward, understanding you need to put money into this, that there's there's a piece that needs to be done that's beyond your passion, you know, that's beyond the desire. How did you keep yourself going? How did you keep yourself on track to make this come into life?
So, you know what? This is amazing. I gave up the whole promoting. I had tried a couple things, and I went on Twitter and I decided to just keep helping people and never mind my book. And it's the truth. That's what I did. I met so many of you in these rooms. I would tweet out certain people. I let it go. I said, God, this is yours. I can't do this in my head right now. I had done a couple, I was done. And I ended up making so many friends and helping, especially during lockdown. I tried to be like a cheerleader for everyone to keep them going, especially the new people. And somehow in doing that and just giving up my will, suddenly the book was in people's hands. I have no idea how. So that's what happened. I mean, it's a miracle.
Love it, love it, love it. Yeah, because I think some people can get very caught, and I know I certainly would go into that place where I'd get caught up with the logistical end of things, and I lose connection with what I'm doing. You know, it can be difficult. It can be difficult. Okay, Pam, what are your tips to give people so they have some sort of an idea, they want to bring it out? You are, of course, going to cheerlead them and say, do it, make sure you do it. But what is the practical advice that you're going to give them to help them take that step for themselves?
So I believe that when we start to recover, there's that voice that comes in our head and we find out who we are and what our gifts are. You know, mine might be writing, Denise might be we each find our gift, and that is the most beautiful thing. And then when you hear and you know what it is, and it could be anything, mathematics, community work, whatever it is, and you hear it and you recognize it and you believe in it and you know that's what you're meant to do, there comes this peace in your heart. Then you move, you take the action to go forward in whatever that is that you really want to do. And like both Denise and Paul said, let go of the fear, let go of what ifs, and go for it. No one can harm you. That voice is gone. No one can harm you. No one can say anything bad. And if they do, we can let that go without using or drinking. We can keep moving forward. We have that freedom now to continue to walk in that light. And for me, I wanted to say one last thing is I was a little afraid to put my name on this book at first. I mean, I lived in the suburbs, nice home. I had a lot at stake in terms of my husband has a very good job with a company. People were going to find out. And I decided that I needed to put a face with a name, and people need to understand that it doesn't matter what lot in life you are or your level, that we can be addiction. And I put my name on it proudly, my picture, here I am. And if you don't, if you don't like me, then don't hang out with me. But I do believe our gift, we know what it is, whatever it is, that bad voice is gone, and we can use the good one to move forward in the direction where we know our God wants us to go.
Love it. Love it. Trust the voice, trust the calling, trust that intuition that you have, that whatever is inside of you is worthy of bringing out into life, and it will help other people. So Denise had that doubt, Paul had that doubt, Pam had that doubt, and they brought it out, and they're helping other people in ways that you couldn't possibly imagine, and now that we're mostly online, look at how it's touching people. It's absolutely phenomenal. It's phenomenal. Thank you, everybody. Sim, do we have any questions?
No one has sent any questions in.
Okay, I can see something in the chat. Let me see. That might be links. Tria wants to know, where can she buy your book, Pam?
It is on Amazon, Barnes and Noble, those two internet sites.
Okay, cool. Does anybody have any other questions? If you want to raise your hand so I can see it on the side. Is there any questions you have or comments, even if you want to? Oh, thanks, Sim, that's great. If there's any comments you want to make to any of the speakers, if you got something out of it, that would be fantastic to feed that back to them. Anything at all? Were they so comprehensive that they... Hi, Meg, come on in.
Hi, I just wanted to say, I'm so glad. I wasn't sure I was going to be able to get here today. I'm so glad I did. And I just really appreciate what they're doing and sharing it with us, because that's how we learn and that's how we build community. And I appreciate it. Thank you.
Thanks,
Lovely.
Meg.
Thank you, Meg. Thank you. Thank
Hi.
you. Hi, Jane. Hi.
Hi, I just want to say that everyone really spoke to my heart. They're very down to earth, and it was great. I saw without sounding too psychotic, Pam, I saw purple around your screen, which is a higher power color. And you're a good soul. You're a great soul.
Thanks, Jane. Thank you. Thank you. Any other comments? I can't see everybody on the... Sim, do you have a... Yeah.
So Pam, I know where I can get your book, and Paul, I know where I can get your t-shirts. Denise, how do I find what you create? And also, who is your friend behind you?
this is Mr. This is Mr.
Oh.
Happy.
Oh,
Yeah, he's
He looks like
kind
he has
of...
a dicky bow.
Honestly, you want to see this guy move. He's like, if he's not ragging wildlife around the caravan, he's dancing or he's asleep. And he's like, he's my little wingman. So you can find me, Sim. I've got a website, and it's justagirl.emyspot.com. So all my blogs are on there. And I've sent Sandra the link to the play and also the film on my profile, on my Twitter profile, justagirl17x. There's a little link in there, and you can see the film that I talked about as well. So that's where I am at the minute. Thank you.
Right, I will get
What
that
are you doing,
link.
Kat? Thank you.
I will get that link and I will copy it. Okay, is there any other questions or comments that people want to make? I suppose one of the last question that I had at the end of the poll, if people wouldn't mind just indulging me, that if you had an idea, and you don't have to say what the idea is, but if you had an idea, do you feel it's a bit more possible now to bring that forward?
Yeah.
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 Yeah. Yeah, it's very much how the recovery community works. When we see one person or two people, or we see people taking that step, it's almost like we can take that step as well for wherever our thing is. And I just want to say, just on what Pam was saying about that voice, if that voice is telling you, don't do it, it's not worth it, who are you to bring that now? What have you got? You don't have a degree, you don't have blah, 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 whatever. You just contact any of us here on Twitter and we'll tell you why you have to bring it out. And we're more powerful than that negative voice.
Exactly.
Trust me, when I scream at you, you take notice. Isn't that right, Damon? I call it, what do I call it? I forget what I called it, George. Was it emphatic? What did I call it? Emphatic concern or something.
Emphatic recommendation, I think it was.
Something like that anyway. Yeah. That's Tria, you have your hand up there. Have you got a question for us or a comment?
Yeah, no, I just wanted to, that absolutely, the three of you, oh my goodness, what talent. And it was funny because the minute you said, Paul, about Max Kolbe, a few people here know that I've read every bloody Saints biography, because in school, in my primary school, in the convent, we were allowed to take one book of fiction out, and we could have any amount of Saints biographies. So I read every blinking saint under the sun, even the ones that are demoted now and aren't saints anymore, you know. And I was laughing to myself too, because one of the things I wanted to be when I was small was I didn't want to be a nun. I wanted to be a saint. I really did want to be a saint. Anyway, that didn't happen. But I just, do you know what, actually, it's very, very weird. One of my big problems in life is that the guilt, all mixed up in the guilt that one feels being alcoholic, you know. One of the things that really gets to me when I'm in my down times is, do you remember the parable of the talents that the Lord gave out? And, you know, some, you know, you were given these talents and some went and threw them, just pissed them away, actually. And some of them just hoarded them. And some of them planted seed. I was all of these, I never planted. And, you know, the idea that God gave me talents and I've wasted them, that can get to me. And I just want to applaud the three of you. From my deepest gut and my soul and my heart, I just want to applaud. It's actually nearly brought me to tears. It really has. It's touched me deeply. My Lord, your Holy Spirit or your God or whoever you want to call your higher power, he must be smiling away. Like, look at what you've done. And that's heartfelt for me, really is. I was an awful weeper and whinger and crier when I was drinking. And I hate crying now. And I push against it all the time, you know, but yeah, touched very deeply by the three of you. And thank you. And Sandra, per usual, what a wonderful, you certainly haven't wasted talents, because my goodness me, you're a force of nature.
Thanks, Drea. Thank you so much. Thank you. Before we wrap up, guys, one of the, I don't know if people answer this because I can't see the poll because I just did away with my privileges to see the poll. So I have no idea if people said that. But if you have ideas, next month, the first Sunday of every month is going to be this special kind of night, because we want to promote this. And again, as Tria said, show people using their talents to help others in a way that, you know, we may not kind of get to or think about we might be able to do ourselves. So Chris Gillum is going to come in, and he is going to talk about how he's working with people to look at the advertising in the gambling industry, and particularly at young people, that, you know, this kind of advertising being the onslaught that there is at young people. Chris will be in next month. If there are other people that you think, or other topics that you think you'd like to hear about, send me a message and we'll go and find people to come in and do these kind of sessions, these kind of interviews, so that you can broaden that out. So if you put something in the poll, brilliant. If not, you can send me a message. I'm on Twitter, Recovery Hour, or sandra@recoveryhour.ie. Send me an email and we'll be happy to do that. And that will be fantastic. So I really enjoyed this evening. If there's no more comments, if there's no more anything to say, all I will say is thank you all for being here. We do have our meetings, our regular meetings. Damon, just tell us what the theme of Monday night's meeting is, if you don't mind.
Thank you, Sandra. Tomorrow is the topic of finding our truth. I'm not going to jump on the back of Stoptober, but there's an awful lot of people out there that are in that grey area of are we, what should we be doing, where are we going? So I've got some questions. It's going to be a Q&A, but with the usual crowd that we get on a Monday night. There's going to be some fairly gutsy sharing about, you know, making the switch from worrying to dealing with the early sobriety and accepting where we are and where we need to be. So finding the truth is tomorrow.
And crying, because we always cry on a Monday. Yeah, we always cry on a Monday. Tuesday evening we're going to be looking at the issue of codependency over a series of weeks on a Tuesday evening. And Wednesday is women's meeting at 8 o'clock. Thursday, Matt's meeting. Matt, do you want to say anything about any of the meetings that's coming up on Thursdays? Make some announcements, make people aware of what's happening.
A lot of the shares this month are non-fellowship people, so recovery through different avenues. So I think this week there is a fellowship one, but the other two for the rest of October are non-fellowship. And then at the beginning of November, we're going to have our LGBTQ plus meeting. So there'll be more information about that later. Thanks.
Great. Can I just ask, because I know we'll be asked this question, and I personally don't have a problem with this. Is this specifically for people in the community, or can anybody join?
No, it's for everybody. Everybody can come along.
Cool.
The idea just being that it's a safe space for people in that community.
That works. That's lovely. Lovely. Thank you. Thank you. Then Friday nights is our prayer and meditation meeting. So that is prayer and that is meditation. We don't usually cry in that one unless people are crying when the camera is off. I have no idea. Bring a candle, and we do have a little piece. We have a structure for the next few weeks that you can come along. We're breaking down step 11, you know, specifically into sections so that we can have a comprehensive understanding of step 11. That's on Fridays. Sim, tell us about Saturday, what's happening on Saturdays and the special Saturday that we have at the end of the month, particularly for this month. Yay.
So Saturday, typically, for example, for this week, I harass my friends into sharing at the meeting, experience, strength and hope. We read how it works. But on the last Saturday of the month is special Saturdays. This is social Saturdays, and we do a quiz night where we get horrifically against each other, every man for themselves. In fairness, that was only the first one. Since then, we seem to have calmed down. But this month is a particularly special Saturday because it falls on Halloween Day. So for this month, we will be dressing up, have some sort of, you could put a witch's hat on, you can do your makeup real good, you do whatever you do to feel like you're part of the Halloween social Saturday. We'll just have fun in recovery. You know, it's not, you can bring your friends, your family, you know, as long as they're respectful. It's general knowledge questions, and then some really specific ones that you're never going to know, but just information that I'd like you to know. It's always a lot of fun. You're always all welcome.
And also, Sim, don't forget, it might be just an added bonus, the disgusting round.
And there will
I would
be...
also like to give you the flavour of this quiz night for anyone who's not been. Sim actually told a Canadian that he had got the number of points on the Canadian flag wrong and stood by her answer.
And I was...
That's the sort of night you're talking about, folks.
What's wrong about Canada?
And I got the point for it, so I'm not giving out about it. We will have a Champions of Champions night.
Denise is trying to get in.
All right, I'll get you now, Denise. We will have a Champion of Champions night in December where you could win this very special prize. It's not just a pink flamingo. In there will fit a soft drink can. So when we do go on holidays, and God knows whenever, you can put your soft drink can in there. And there's also a medal, a recovery hour medal that nobody wants. Everybody wants the goddamn pink flamingo. So anyway, you're getting the medal whether you like it or not. That's the end of that. Denise, come on in there.
Hi, Sandra. Yeah, no, I just wanted to thank all the speakers. And I mean, it was wonderful, wonderful, wonderful. And, you know, especially the message that you just get sober and then what? You know, like to do something with what's been given to us, I think is amazing. And also just to reiterate on behalf of the Canadians and reiterate what Tria was saying is that thank you for having this space, you know, for all of us through COVID. I don't know where we would be. And it's been an amazing, amazing experience for all of us. And I know there's not a lot of them here today, but I know that each person that has come to Recovery Hour has really, really appreciated that safe space. And, you know, it goes to show you you know, we're talking about the 3 speakers today, but it goes to show you that, you know, Sandra's always saying she said yes to this idea. So one person can create a space for 200 meetings. So thank you.
Thank you, Denise. Thank you. And as of this morning, for those of you who've seen my tweet about operating system missing or something like that, I've said yes to God for something else. And all I'm going to say is, folks, assume the crash position, because we're going big. We are going big. Okay, on that note, Sunday night, actually, Rachel, who I don't think is here this evening, is going to do the kind of fellowship type kind of meetings. The other Sundays that we're this would be the first Sunday, and then the other Sunday she's taken up that meeting. So that'll be a speaker kind of sharing type kind of meeting. So that's it. If anybody wants the schedule, drop me an email or drop me a message on Twitter, and I'll send you the schedule so that you'll know exactly what's happening as we go through the month. We'll have an update and I'll send that out to you. So I'm going to stop the recording because I forgot we were still recording. I won't put any of that end bit. We'll just forget.